Cashflow Diary Podcast, episode 122.
Welcome to yet another exciting episode of the Cashflow Diary Podcast, the podcast that teaches you insider tips, tactics, and strategies for creating leverage streams of cash flow into your life. Learn from top-performing entrepreneurs, business owners, investors, and thought leaders from across the globe as they share their secrets to success. Like what you learn on this and other Cashflow Diary podcast episodes? Go to learninvestingnow.com and sign up to receive powerful tips and information that will help you succeed as an entrepreneur and investor. Now, here's your host, investor, entrepreneur, business owner, educator, speaker, author, and master facilitator of Robert Kiyosaki's cash flow game, Jay Massey.
All right. It was pretty good this past weekend. Some of you were able to join us and see the broadcast that we did of the cash flow game. Hopefully you had some fun. For those of you that were there, I know for a fact that some of you were as far away as Spain, which is awesome. Shout out goes to Billy. And definitely those of you that were in the U.S. playing along with us, making the game happen. And most importantly, increasing your own financial knowledge and helping your friends too. So that's pretty cool. For those of you joining the first time, my name is Jay. I'm glad that you are here. And you know what? It's that time. It's December. It's that most wonderful time of the year, right? Not really. You're like, Jay, please don't sing anymore. I understand. Here's my point. The interesting thing is that somehow now we might actually believe that it's okay to go, oh, well, I'll start that next year. Wrong. You still have 30 days left. Let's keep the momentum going. Whatever it is that you've started, finish. Whatever you think you want to start now. Don't wait. You're like, it's going to be easier or better after the holidays. No, it's not. You make the action happen now. Oftentimes, right now could be one of the best times for you to begin to go out there and make all those things happen simply because you're going to be around so many people. And guess what? Typically, to make the things that we want to have happen, we need other people. What better time than now, since you're already there in the room with them, for you guys to talk about it. Additionally, something I just want to think about, I want you guys to know rather, is that we had a giveaway this past week or so. And if you went over to the website at cashflowdiary.com, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You're probably hoping that right now I'm about to say your name. We are giving away 5 copies of the brand new Cashflow board game by the Rich Dad Company. And the winners will be announced this Tuesday at 4 p.m. on Q&A with Jay. So if you entered, you probably want to make sure that you are watching, and we'll let you know who won. Something that I did want to say to you today, though. It's a simple quote. It says, some men have thousands of reasons why they cannot do what they want to do. All they need is one reason why they can. That comes to us from Willis Rodney Whitney. Willis Rodney Whitney. He was around in 1868. And the interesting thing is you just got to love saying his name, Willis Rodney Whitney, is that I love what he is talking about here. When I read that quote, it brings up only one really large subject, and that subject is failing or failure events, whatever it is that you want to call them. Here's my point. I must say some things as I talk to you today. There are 3 things that many of us could benefit from. And if you are beginning to think about the new year, that's fine. I want you to think about this month. You already know that. But also, as you go into the new year, I want you to learn a new skill set. I really do. And that skill set is absolutely imperative. If you want to finally have the breakthroughs and the success that's required and all those things happen to you that you know are out there for you, I'm going to say very, very strongly that if you adhere to what I'm about to share with you, you'll have a greater shot at actually making it happen. So, here's the first thing I want you to glean from everything that we're talking about today. First, fail forward. Fail forward. What does that mean? That means things like start before you think you're ready and fail forward. It means to me that you would learn from what went wrong. And when I say the word wrong, unfortunately, we have too many negative neuro associations to that word, and many of you are thinking many different things. All I mean is something that did not go the way originally intended. I mean, it's a simple detour to some degree, but it didn't go the way you wrote down, the way you thought it would, the way you had planned, the way you had hoped. At the end of the day, I want you to fail forward. What do you mean by that, Jay? Well, I want you to think about something. When you execute a strategy, when you execute anything, review that process. What didn't go as you intended? And is there something, what's there in that experience that you could use the next time you attempt that something to improve upon the experience you just had? For example, as I just said, we had the cash flow game and it was great. It was awesome. It is laying the groundwork for something that's very, very large that we are attempting to do and wanting to make sure that everybody has a shot to participate in one of the largest board game participations that have ever occurred. Well, guess what? Everything did not go well. Registrations, especially for those that were online, did not go well, but it went. The game happened anyway. There were times where it was a little herky-jerky just in sense of understanding how to make sure everybody was on time. And more importantly, everyone that had all of the details of what was necessary to set up their own board game. These are all things that we learned. And now because we've learned them, we're going to fail forward so that the next time the experience improves. Oftentimes I find that on the subject of failure, we don't want to think about it. We don't want to confront it. We don't want to deal with it. We want to believe that everything was fine. And if no one brings it up to us, then everything must have been okay. Seek with the intent of correcting. Seek with the intent of correcting. Here's what I mean. Seek with the intent to have things go more closely toward the way originally intended. Or in this case, it would be the new way that you now originally intend. Go seek out those areas where you might not have gotten it correct. Whatever that is, you say, hey, I wrote 20 offers this week, Jay, but it didn't go well. Okay, cool. I understand that it didn't go as you intended. Where do you think you can improve? What happened? What was the conversation like? Well, I didn't have a conversation. Well, that could be the very point where you went awry. Oftentimes, I find that we don't want to talk to the seller first. We just want to show up with a perfect offer. I can't think of a time where anything I've ever offered was perfect, so perfect from the beginning and didn't require any revision. And this is now why you have heard me say, and I say again, that an offer is just an invitation for a conversation. So, what next? Fail fast. Let me give you an example of something. Pretend you are trying to do, cooking, or, you want to learn archery, or you want to learn to box, or you want to learn to drive, or, you want to learn to, skydive, or you want to learn to do anything you currently do not know how to do. Pretend for a second it's going to take 100 repeated attempts at that something in order for you to even become remotely competent at it. 100. That means you first try, you got all this excitement, right? You go up, you're like, yeah, let's go. You're excited. You're like, ooh, I'm going to finally learn to cook. I'm going to make something great. You go, yes, I'm going to learn to sing. I'm going to learn to play the guitar. I'm going to learn to play the drums. I'm going to learn to do something. I'm going to finally learn photography. Awesome. You go, you get all the equipment or whatever it is you feel that you need, and you take your first photograph and you go, that's not what I saw. But it's going to take 100. Now, I'm assuming it's only going to take 100. It may take more. But here's the real question. Would you rather have those 100 attempts where you know it's not going to go well? If I could guarantee you that on try number 101, it would be 100% everything that you would like. You would be the expert in the way that you'd like and envision. Would you rather have those 100 attempts over the course of 10 years, 10 months, 10 days, 10 weeks, or 10 seconds? That's what I'm talking about. Failing fast. Oftentimes we fail, but then we wait. So much time passes by before we just like, I just want to fail as slowly as possible. I don't want to rip the Band-Aid off. We must all go through the 4 levels of learning until you reach level 3. We must. There's no way to do it. We've got to, eventually, we all want to reach level 4. I understand that. And you're like, what are the 4 levels of learning? As a quick review for some and possibly an introduction to others, it's simply, we all start out at level 1. We don't know what we don't know, and we typically call that being unconsciously incompetent. You don't know what you don't know about archery. You just know you want to pull back a bow and point it at something and hit a target. That might be all you know. Then eventually you begin to gather the resources you need. And as you do that, during that research gathering, during that understanding of what's required, you learn. You become conscious of your incompetence. You now know that you don't know stuff. And you might even learn that there's a whole lot you don't know. And then you continue with perseverance. You go, okay, I'm okay that I don't know stuff. Okay, I'm okay that I don't know the difference between ISO and aperture and shutter speed and all these other things, but I'm going to learn photography anyway. Great. And eventually, you start to get it. After repetition, you go, okay, that makes sense. And you start to get 1 or 2 photos that start to look okay. You're like, oh, okay. And then you go through more and more. And then eventually, you actually know what you need to do in order to get a good photo. And you've entered into state number 3, which is you are now consciously competent. You know exactly what to do, but you got to think about it. And then eventually we get over to step number 4. And in step number 4, this is the place that athletes call the zone. This is the place where many have just wanted to sit. It's the place where you are now with things like, what's your name? Tying your shoe. For some of you, driving a car. All of these things have now reached stage 4, where you are unconsciously competent. You don't really think about what you do today when you go to work. During the first 3 or 6 months, you probably were pushing a big old boulder uphill trying to figure it all out. But today, you just go to work and do what you do. The first time you wrote an offer on a piece of real estate, it was probably an event, and you told everybody about it. Today, it's just part of what you do. You don't really think about it. You just go, yeah, I wrote offers. No big deal. And you are now unconsciously competent. Here's the thing. If I told you it was going to take 101 tries to get to that stage, I think most of us would go and try to get that done in 10 seconds or less, 10 days or less, 10 weeks, 10 whatever, a lot faster than we've done. Interestingly, though, I can't make that promise. I don't know how long or how many attempts it's going to take. But I do know this. It's going to take attempts. And I personally would rather have those attempts take a shorter time frame than to drag them out a long, long time. See, as I said, we must all go through the 4 levels until you reach level 3. Most of the time, you'll experience failure events, things that go, quote unquote, wrong. And the skill set you must learn is how to persevere through those things without losing hope. Number 3, you must also learn to fail frequently. So let's get back on that 100 attempts analogy that we were just talking about. What if instead of saying 100, you just tried something you have never done, you have no background in, don't even know if you have a skill set for yet, but you just tried it only one time. One time. You psyched yourself up. You're like, okay, here we go. One time, done. What is the likelihood that you're going to actually experience success on that first time? I'm not saying that it's not possible, but if it is your first time and you do experience success, there's probably a pattern to that. Things like, asking for input and advice and getting some wisdom from those who have been there ahead of you to be able to understand, hey, what can I do to be more successful sooner than you were is typically the question. And then you actually implement, follow, and do those things. So is one attempt really enough for you to gather the data to make the necessary required corrections to move in the direction towards success? Is that really enough? Is that enough sample size? As statisticians would say, is that even statistically relevant? Hey, I wrote one offer, it didn't get accepted. Okay. Does that mean real estate doesn't work? I had a business idea, Jay, and I tried to talk to one person to raise some capital, and I guess this idea is no good. Well, I have one investor that I want to work with, but they want to do something completely different than what I feel confident at. So should I change everything around just to do what they want to do? It's one attempt. It doesn't mean your idea isn't valid. It doesn't mean that that's what you should do. It just means it's one attempt so far. Could you imagine what would the world look like if Thomas Edison, only attempted once? Would we have light? I don't know. It's an interesting question. No one can really answer it. You could say, yes, we would, or no, we wouldn't, and someone else would have discovered it. Okay, that's possibly true. But even if that's the case, would it have taken more than one attempt? I'm guessing the answer is yes. What about Michael Jordan? The basketball player. What if he had only attempted to make one basketball team? What if he said, you know what, I'll play in junior high or high school, but I don't want to attempt again to play in college? What if when he was in high school and when he got cut from the team, what if he didn't say, what if he said, you know what, okay, I guess it's not for me? I mean, what if when he missed his first free throw or 3-point shot or dunk or any of those things, he's like, I guess I can't do this. I tried that once. It didn't work. Would we even know his name today? Here's another thought on this one. What if when you were little, you may not be able to remember this far back, but that's okay. Just think about this for a second. What if when you were little, and as you were learning to explore and walk around, what if as you were trying to walk, you fell? Would you sit on the floor and say, you know what, I guess this walking thing isn't for me. I can't do it. You don't understand. This diaper is just in the way. And you know what? This table, it shouldn't be here. And you know what? All of these other people who were walking, they got lucky. That's what happened. They got lucky. Would that make any sense? Here's the thing. You and I have only learned through failure. It's the only time we've ever really learned. We can model success. We can imitate what people have done correctly. You can mimic those things that look appropriate and sound like they go in the correct direction. But you and I have only really learned through failure and failing in various different ways. Now, I have said all of these things to say this. I believe one of the greatest handicaps that we are currently experiencing is and occurs daily with our schooling system, because it simply has taught most of us, myself included, that we need to attempt to get things right the first time without help. And now, when you choose to become an entrepreneur, you find yourself handicapped, unable to cope with becoming more than what you currently are, because in order to do that, you must, I must, we must experience the process known as failure. So, what should you take from all this? I have failed more than you. Now, you go learn to fail. Until next time.